I'm Min. I'm a business development manager at Loanmarket, and today I'm going to introduce you to loans, what they are, how to get one, and also the current policies. So, you'd want a loan to buy a home, and this is how you do it. So first, you want a pre-approval. Now pre-approvals come in two types. You can either have a standard pre-approval, which is you go to the bank and you say, I want to buy a house, here's my situation, and straight away you'll get a yes pre-approval. But this is not a assessed pre-approval. They don't actually have to give you the money after you sign the contracts, and a lot of people get caught out this way. What you really want is a fully assessed pre-approval. Now, fully assessed pre-approval takes a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but a little bit longer. You need to submit your pay slips, you need to submit all your documents, and you need to do a full analysis on you as a person and as a client. See if you can pay them back. And after you do that, everything's very, very easy. Now, after you get your fully assessed pre-approval, it's time to go shopping. Because you have a pre-approval, you know exactly how much money you're allowed to borrow and how expensive of a house you can buy. Now, one thing that I would like to recommend to everyone is hiring a property advocate. Now, what a property advocate does is that they go out, look for a house for you. Well, first you meet with them and then say, this is how much I can spend. I want a house like this, so 3-bedroom, independent house in Baldwin, right? They will say, look, that's going to cost you $3 million. You've only got pre-approval for $200,000. It's not really going to work. You need to look a bit further away. Or they might say, great, you can buy something like that. Then after they find a house for you, they will then go negotiate with the vendor and the real estate agent and get you a very good deal. I know one of my good friends, she was looking for a house. It was going to go to auction and they were predicting $550,000. A property advocate was able to negotiate a deal before the auction for $403,000. So she saved about $150,000 by paying this property advocate about $10,000 to find her that house and buy it for her. So I think it's a very worthwhile investment with hiring a property advocate. After you pick your house and it's good, you sign your contract. Now, a few of the things you need to look out for when signing the contract is one, a and/or nominee clause. This means that if for whatever reason before settlement you don't want the house anymore, you can move it on to someone else. So I know a person who bought an apartment in the CBD. It wasn't a fully built apartment, and before construction began, he thought maybe it wasn't such a good idea buying an apartment in the CBD. But because he didn't have an and/or nominee clause, he either had to say goodbye to his 10% deposit, which was quite substantial, like $30,000 or something, or he just had to cop it and buy the whole house. So when you buy a house, make sure there's an and/or nominee clause. Make sure you go to a solicitor and put that in if there isn't one in there. Another thing is subject to finance. If you've done everything properly, you wouldn't really need this, but some people go out there and sign a contract without getting pre-approval and knowing if they can actually get the funds for it. After you sign the contract and there isn't a subject to finance thing, and you can't get the finance, you have to pay for all of the losses that the vendor experiences. So, if they were planning to go on a holiday later on, and then they can't go on holidays now because they haven't sold the house to you because you couldn't buy it because you can't get the finance for it, they could sue you for all of that losses. You have to pay for them, or a new holiday for them, to pay, if they were going to retire, you pay for their retirement losses or anything. So subject to finance is quite important. And also I want to talk about settlement timelines a little bit. Settlement timelines when you're signing a contract, you can define 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 120 days. You want to talk and discuss with your broker or your banker and pick out a timeline that is suitable for the bank that you're applying for. Some banks take a really long time to settle a loan. So if you only pick a 30-day settlement timeline and the loan actually takes 45 days to settle, you might lose a lot of money because you can't settle on the settlement date. So you have to make sure you pick out a settlement timeline that is suitable for the financial institution you're borrowing money from. So after you have signed the contract, it's time to finalise your loan. To finalise your loan, you confirm with your broker or your banker the final loan structure. Do you want a fixed rate, variable rate, package, get all those details sorted out. You update the bank regarding any of your situational changes. Have you gotten a pay raise? Is the house that you are planning to buy the same type of house you told the bank you were going to buy? And all that sort of stuff. And after we've finalised the loan, we move on to the settlement. Settlement's pretty simple. You sign the loan offer, or the bank gives you a loan offer, you sign that loan offer, and then you wait for your settlement and move in. Now, a few things that I want to clear up is a loan versus a mortgage. Some people don't know what the difference is. They kind of just think it's the same thing. It really isn't. A loan is borrowing of money, pretty much. So a loan is someone, here, have some money, pay me back later. That's a loan. And now a loan can come in secured and unsecured. An unsecured loan is if you can't pay back the money, they can't really take anything back from you. There's no security they can take back. But a secured loan is what most loans are in Australia. And that is, if you can't pay me back, I'm going to take this away from you. And a mortgage is simply using your house as a security for your home loan. So if you can't pay back your loan, the bank comes and takes away your house and sells it. Now we'll talk about loan structures a bit. There's three main things you need to think about for loan structures. First thing is the basic variable loan. Now this loan is a bare bones, very bare bones kind of loan. No offset account, no fancy packages or anything. It's just this interest rate, you pay back every month and that's it. It's generally the cheapest because there are no package fees involved. So there are no yearly fees, no ongoing fees, and application fees are very, very low. It's great for people with a steady income and rare windfall gains. So if you just work a 9-to-5 job and you're on a basic, 80k a year, 100k a year salary, this is generally the best type of, or the cheapest type of loan for you. But if you have some more other things going on, the other type of loans will be more suitable for you. So then we have the standard variable loan. So with the standard variable loan, you can have an offset account. I'll talk about offset accounts in a moment. It's generally a lot more expensive than a standard variable loan. So right now you can get a basic variable. You can get a basic variable right now at about 3.88% per annum. The standard variable loan, you're looking at about 4.2, 4.4 kind of interest rates. Generally, you don't get a standard variable just by itself. You always bundle it together in a package with a fixed loan. Now, a fixed loan is a loan term with a fixed period so that the interest rate can't go up or down inside that period. You can select how long you want to fix it for, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, up to 7 years. And it's almost always cheaper than a standard variable. So fixed loans right now are about 3.88% for a 2-year fix. And it's a good peace of mind, So once you sign that contract, your payments aren't going to go up for the next 2, 5, whatever years that you pick. Now, a package loan combines the standard variable and the fixed loan term into one thing. So you can define how much you want as a variable and how much you want as a fixed. So say you have a $500,000 loan, you can have $100,000 as a fixed variable and $400,000 as a fixed, not a fixed variable, a standard variable, and then $400,000 as a fixed term loan. What this allows you to do is have the offset account that can offset up to $100,000 in your loan because, let's be honest, no one's going to really save up $100,000 in a year unless you're very, very rich. A package loan is required to have an offset account. And also a package loan can include a credit card. Now with the package loan, you're paying $395 with all banks pretty much to get this package, but inside the package you get 2 loan accounts, you get your offset account, and you also incorporate your credit card into it. So instead of paying your yearly $60, $80 a year for your credit card, you just pay, it's all included in that $395 per year. Now, offset account. Offset account offsets the interest from your variable loan. So if you have $100,000 owing on your variable with $0 in your offset account, you're paying interest on $100,000. But if you have $50,000 in your offset account, you only pay $50,000 of interest even though you're owing $100,000. So that's why it's good for people with a business kind of thing, So you've just done a big deal, you've sold off a whole bunch of products, you get $100,000 in, you put that into an offset account, it's offsetting $100,000 worth of interest in your mortgage. It's ineffective against fixed term loans. So if you have your loan in a fixed configuration, your offset account does nothing to it. You can't offset the loan on a fixed, it's always going to charge you interest. You can have $1 million in your fixed in your offset account, and it's not going to do anything to your fixed. You can have multiple offset accounts. So if you have a large family and you want to give every family member their own bank account, but you also want them to help you offset the interest on the mortgage, you can have up to 10 offset accounts with some lenders. So you can have an account for your partner and an offset account for your 9 children. Interest-only repayments. Interest-only repayments are quite interesting. It's when you take out a loan, you don't pay any of the money you're borrowing back, but you only give back the bank the interest you're due to pay. It's used to maximize your cash flow because you're not paying the principal, you're paying a lot less every month. And it's generally used for investment properties. So you're just paying the bare minimum and then you're claiming it back on your tax anyway. It allows you to afford more properties at the same time. It's always higher interest rates than P&I. And also the Australian government's kind of like waging a war against interest-only lending as well, which I'll get to later. Principal and interest repayments, these are very common for your normal owner-occupied properties or own home loans. You just pay back the principal, which is the amount of money you own, and the interest back at the same time. Oops. Right, lower interest rates, great. And interest in advance repayments. These are very interesting. They're always used for investment properties, and you need a lot of money to make sure you do this. But this is good for when you've had a really good year and you're about to get taxed a whole bunch. You go, oh, how do I avoid this tax? I'll pay off the interest for my mortgage for the next 12 months in one go, and then you can bring down your taxable income that way. Great, great for after receiving a large windfall income. Now, LVR and LMI. LVR stands for loan to value ratio. It's the ratio between the loan size and the value of your property. So for example, if your loan size was $500,000 and your property was $1 million, your LVR is 50% because your loan is 50% the value of your property. Or if you had an $8 loan against a $10 property, it's an 80% LVR. There's another thing called lender's mortgage insurance. It protects the lender in the case of a default or bankruptcy. So if you can't repay your loan, the bank will first of all, they'll sell off your house, and then the LMI will pay back the bank the amount of money still owing. So let's say you've borrowed $800,000, your property was worth $1 million at the time, but now it's come down to $500,000, right? So the bank will try to sell off your property, they'll get $500,000 for it, but you're still owing them $800,000, 800 minus 500, $300,000 still left. The LMI will then pay for that $300,000 to protect the lender. It's only applicable for loan to value ratios of over 80%. So if you stay under 80%, you don't need to buy lender's mortgage insurance. And it's only a one-off payment at the start of the loan. So it's not like a car insurance policy where you keep paying it every year or every month. It's just a one-off payment and that's it. And it also can be capitalized into the loan. So it can be included inside the loan. Say you needed to pay $20,000 LMI, you don't need to put $20 into it out of your own pocket. It can be included into your loan. So you just borrow $20,000 extra. Just one more thing to add. Generally, LMI adds 2% to your LVR. That's just a general rule. So say you were at 90% LVR, after capitalizing on LMI, you would be paying about 92% LVR. The LMI companies, just QBE, Genworth, a few of them around. Now, credit report and credit score. The credit score is used by lenders to assess your risk of a default in the next 12 months. A lower credit score means not good, and a high credit score means good. In case of a low credit score, so you've had a few defaults in the past, you haven't paid your bills or something like that, you will need to go to a specialist lender. Now, this brings us to conforming and non-conforming lenders. So generally conforming lenders are the big banks, Commonwealth, NAB, ANZ, Westpac, Bank of Melbourne, St George, those sort of lenders. They're cheaper, but they're also very risk aware. And because they're very risk aware, they're very picky. So if you have defaults in the past, a bad credit score, lower income, or unstable income, they won't take you, they won't give you any money. So some of the examples. And when the conforming lenders won't take you, you have to go to a non-conforming lender. Now, they're generally smaller financial institutions. They will be more expensive. So we're talking 7, 8, up to 15% interest per annum. But if you really need the money, you really need the money. They accept almost anyone. Instead of having a standard rate that they just go to, if you have more risk, they'll just charge you more money. So if you're very, very risky, if you have a negative credit score, they might just charge you 35% interest, but they'll still give you the money one way or another. Interest rates. Yeah, interest rates are generally a case-by-case basis, and some of the examples are Pepper Money, La Trobe Financial, and Bluestone. Another interesting thing is some of these specialist lenders, like La Trobe, also do overseas lending, or not overseas, non-resident lending. So if you're not a resident of Australia, if you're a resident of China or somewhere else, you can come in and still get a loan from La Trobe. Now, current policies. APRA has capped the amount of new interest-only lending to 30%. So this means that the banks can't give out any more interest-only loans actually, that's a bad way to explain it. The banks can only give out up to 30% of their new loans as interest-only. So what that's forced them to do is to price their interest-only loans so that only 30% of the people go for them. So you will see in a moment how they've done that. They've also placed strict internal limits on high risk or high LVR lending and IO lending. IO means interest only. They've also capped lending to investor growth. So the growth of lending to investors. So if you lent $1 million to investors last year, you can't lend any more than 1.1 million the next year. That's the growth. That's been capped at 10% per year. And also they've been asked to review their serviceability metrics. So they're going to be more tough on what jobs you have. They're going to be more tough on your living expenses, how they calculate all of that. So in the end, you'll be able to borrow less money for the same amount of income. And they've also been asked to restrain high risk lending. So high LVR or unstable jobs and things like that. Now we can see here, this is Westpac's new pricing changes. If you look over here, let me get the pen. Here is our owner-occupied interest rate. They've actually gone down a little bit, which is interesting. But if you look at the owner-occupied interest only, they've gone up 0.34%, which is massive. It's a massive, massive increase. And this is to cap the new interest-only lending to 30%. Commonwealth last year experienced a similar kind of situation where their investor refinance growth almost hit 10%, and they had to completely stop refinances altogether. So I'm guessing Westpac has learned from the mistakes of Commonwealth, so they're just ramping up the interest rates heaps to make sure no one goes for them. Now, why broker? So when you want to get a loan, you can either go through a banker or a broker. Banker is when you walk into a branch or contact or call the bank and say, we're going to borrow some money. That's a banker. A broker is someone like me, pretty much. Brokers have access to many different lenders, not just one. So if you call up an ANZ banker, they can only give you a mortgage from ANZ. They can't say, oh look, I work for ANZ. but why don't you go get a mortgage with Westpac? They're not going to do that because it's against their interests, against their boss's interests. A broker isn't limited to one lender. They have, well, with Loanmarket, we have over 30 lenders. We actually have about 48 different lenders. We have a lot of experience with many different, in many different circumstances, and we also have a lot of contacts. So when you go to a banker, they'll say, great, give me this, give me that, we'll get this loan sorted for you. But with a broker, we could help direct you to a property advocate, we can point you towards a financial planner, hook you up with a nice accountant, do all of these things for you that a banker wouldn't necessarily be able to help you with. You also have a lot of time savings. So brokers like to do the paperwork for you. So we fill out all the forms for you. Of course, you have to go back and check that we filled it out correctly and sign it yourself. We can do a lot of those things for you, and also chasing up the banks. So we could save a lot of time for you. If you were to go through a banker, bankers don't really care about the customers as much as a broker, because they go through 15 people a day to do mortgages, and when you have 15 customers a day, you can't take care of all of them. Well, we can. We have the time to do all of those things. And we also have very flexible contact hours. If you call a banker at 9 o'clock at night, they're not going to answer they're not going to be in the office, and they're not going to answer. But a broker, we always give out our personal contact details. If you have a question that's keeping you up at night, you can call us anytime, we'll always answer. If we're not in a meeting, of course. And also another thing a broker can do, which bankers definitely can't do, is this thing called a product comparison. A banker will never show you something like this, only brokers will. So if you have a look here, we have a product comparison between, we have a product comparison between 4 banks and 5 products. Here, you have prepared by whatever, 80% loan. And here we can say NAB 3.69%, ANZ 3.88, NAB again 3.88, Westpac 3.88, Commonwealth 3.99. If you went straight to Commonwealth, they'll say, great, we'll get you a mortgage at 3.99%. You think, oh yeah, that sounds about in line, but you don't know that Westpac or NAB could give you something much, much cheaper. Brokers will also work out a lot of maths for you, like the total interest paid, the monthly repayments, the ongoing rates, and a whole bunch of things. This is only available through a broker. This is not available through any bankers, because bankers want you to go with their bank, not with whatever bank is best for you. Now, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Are there any questions that anyone would like to ask? Yes?
So, let's go back to the slide where you've got the settlement.
Yep.
You said the settlement periods you could stipulate 30 days, 60 days.
Yeah.
You did mention that, let's say you had a 30-day settlement period.
Yep.
And you couldn't meet that period.
Yep.
There would be a penalty.
Yes.
What will be that penalty? Is there a specific formula, or is that determined by?
It's determined case by case.
Case by case.
Yeah.
When it comes to the loan mortgage insurance you've got, obviously exceeding the 80% LVR.
Yep.
What happens if you take out, let's say, 85% loan?
Yep.
So you're compelled to take the LMI.
Mm-hmm. You have to take the
It's
LMI.
paid up front.
Yes.
What if you had funds come in later and put it into that mortgage?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's paid up front.
Basically, you lose that funds.
You lose that. Yes.
Unless you get refinancing.
Yes, unless it doesn't really matter because you've paid it already. Yeah. Even if you refinance it away, you've still paid the LMI. Yes?
I've got a question. Do you still do finance for super?
Yes. SMSF lending is still possible.
Yep.
It's expensive, it's hard, and it takes a very long time. It takes months to settle, like 3 months, 6 months to settle. And that's nothing to do with the broker, it's all to do with the banks. banks don't like lending out SMSF.
Yeah.
The big four banks don't do it at all. They don't touch them.
St.
Bank of
George
Melbourne-
does it? No. No?
No, not anymore.
No.
No, St. George doesn't do it anymore. Bank of Melbourne doesn't do it anymore. Well, they're the same thing.
So who's doing it? Who's
Liberty
Okay.
does it, and a few of the smaller, very hard to deal with banks do them.
does Ram do it?
Rams is more of a brokerage kind
Okay.
of place. They're not really.
Alright. Okay.
Anyone else? Great. Well, thank you for listening. And we'll move on to our next speaker.